Good evening, councillors, and to our viewers live streaming tonight's meeting. My name is Olivia Carley-Han, and I'm the Mayor of Moreland City Council and the chairperson of tonight's council meeting. It is my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's meeting. While we are each joining the meeting from our own location, we are meeting on the lands of the Wurundjeri people. We wish to acknowledge them as the traditional custodians of these lands and waterways, and would also like to pay our respect to their elders past, present and emerging, as well as to all First Nations who significantly contribute to the life of this city. This council meeting is being recorded and web streamed live to council's website and Facebook. This recording will also be available as video on demand. Please be aware, in accordance with the Ministerial Good Practice Guidance for virtual council meetings, if the live stream is interrupted, the meeting will be adjourned until any technical issues can be resolved. A reminder that as councillors, we will act in accordance with the Councillor Code of Conduct, which will support the principles of leadership and good governance that secures public confidence in the office of councillor. I would like to introduce the other councillors in attendance tonight. Councillor Mark Riley, Deputy Mayor.
Good evening.
Councillor Adam Pulford. Councillor Angelica Panopoulos.
Good evening.
Councillor Helen Davidson.
Good evening, everyone.
Councillor Helen Pavlidis.
Good evening, everyone.
Councillor James Conlon.
Hi, everybody.
Councillor Lambros Tapanos.
Hi, everyone.
Councillor Milad El Halabi.
Good evening, everyone.
Councillor Sue Bolton.
Hi, everybody.
And Councillor Oscar Yildiz will be in attendance shortly. He's just having some technical difficulties. I'd also like to introduce the Chief Executive Officer, Kathy Henderson, and our senior management team.
Good evening.
Are there any apologies from councillors for tonight's meeting?
There you are.
There being none, I'll move on to disclosures of conflict of interest. Councillors, do any councillors have a conflict of interest to declare tonight? Councillor Yildiz has joined the meeting. Good evening, Councillor Yildiz. There being no conflicts of interest, I'll move to confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. Do I have a motion for this item? Councillor Riley, and a seconder? Councillor El Halabi. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. We have two petitions this evening, the first being the review of proposed traffic calming treatments between DeKalb and Barrow Streets on Mitchell Street, Brunswick. Do I have a mover for this petition? Councillor Riley, and a seconder, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Riley or Councillor Bolton, did you wish to speak?
Just to say that this is a great proposal from the community, and we'll look forward to processing it and considering it further. Thanks for suggesting it.
Thanks, Councillor Riley. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Our second petition for this evening is concerns raised over electronic parking permit system, McFarlane Street, Brunswick. I move that council receive this petition. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Tapanos to move, Councillor Bolton to second. Do any councillors wish to speak? I'll put that to vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Councillors, do any councillors have petitions to be tabled on behalf of residents? No? Okay. We will now move to question time. This is an opportunity for 30 minutes for people to raise questions with council or to make statements of council issues. I will outline the process for this evening. The time provided for questions and statements is 30 minutes, and this time can only be extended by another 30 minutes to allow for questions and statements relating to items on the agenda. If we do not have time to answer your question, it will be taken on notice and responded to in writing. A maximum of 2 questions or statements in any combination is allowed per person, and questions or statements that relate to a matter listed on the agenda will be dealt with first. If you have registered to ask a question, when I invite you or your representative, please state your name and suburb and then ask the question without preamble or background. If you have registered your intent to make a statement when I invite you, you or your representative, you must state your name and suburb and then make your statement without taking longer than 2 minutes. If you have submitted a second question or indicated you have a second question, it may be at my discretion, deferred until another person has had the chance to submit their questions. A maximum of 3 questions will also be heard on any one subject, and we'll proceed to the next topic, and if time allows, return to the previous topic. Either myself or one of the councillors or one of the council officers will respond to your question. As detailed in the governance rules, questions or statements may be disallowed if they are defamatory, indecent, abusive, offensive, irrelevant, trivial, or objectionable in language or substance. Also, if there is a response to your question tonight, there will be no further formal response. However, council will action any commitments made in answering the question. All right, we will begin. This may take a little bit longer than usual as we bring people from the waiting room. Just bring up. Sorry, I've lost the first people that are speaking. I know I have Lois Knight on the agenda, if Lois is available to speak. I also have Linda Parlane, if she's available to speak. Next, I have Patrick Kluver, if he's available to speak.
There might be something wrong with the live stream.
I'm available to speak. Linda Parlane here.
Oh, excellent. Hi, Linda.
Hi there. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much.
We can see you. You may start. Linda, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yeah.
Great. You're able to ask your question now.
Oh, that's repeating what I said a while ago. Look, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I'm wanting to speak to you about the proposal that you'll be considering tonight to do with Carlisle Street in Coburg. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think there's just a slight delay, but you can give your statement now.
Okay.
Linda, the live stream is slightly delayed. So when you're speaking, we're hearing you in real time, and then the video is delayed as it goes onto the website. So maybe turn off the video and just continue to speak as normal.
I can hear it repeating a couple of times. I'm a
Right.
bit confused about what's happening, to be honest.
We're hearing you speak right now. So if you just continue, that's fine.
And Linda, if you have the Facebook stream going at the same time, turn the sound on that off. Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, we can hear
So I'm
you.
wanting to speak.
That's okay, Linda. Go ahead. We can hear you.
I've started about 3 times and each time it keeps repeating. Oh, for God's sake. I don't know what's going on. I'm actually going to hang up because I can't understand what's happening.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Apologies for that, and please feel free to email your councillors. I'll now move to Patrick Kluver, if he is now in the waiting room. And I'll check once more if Lois Knight is now in the waiting room. All right, great. I'll now move to Mahmood Karama, if they are available to give their statement.
I think Patrick is here. He was just connecting his audio, I think.
Hello, everybody. As a parent, I'm talking about Titting Street tonight, Titting Street Park. As a parent, when I heard about the new park in Titting Street, my first thoughts were, wow, councils really do that sort of thing? What a wonderful thing to do. This has caused much excitement and anticipation from my three girls. I'm absolutely sure it has in other households. We attended as a family all the consultations, made sure we gave feedback and ideas, consultation with the kids at Brunswick North Primary School during the initial concept stage, and the proposed plan seemed to be progressing to a park that would be loved by all. During the lockdown, we watched the progress, slow as it was, as the factory came down and the park took shape. When the tower was erected, we all went down to have a look. We ran into other families from the area doing the same thing. It was all looking good. COVID numbers were coming down and there would be a fabulous park with more kids to play in. Needless to say, the news of the tower was coming down broke three little girls' hearts. They were sad. When it came down to be replaced by two small slides, the girls realised there was nothing in the park for them. They were angry that despite the extensive consultation with school children and the implied promise of a park for them, they had missed out. So I asked the three experts on age-appropriate play equipment for parks what they will call the park. Audrey 10 said boring. Tully 6 said dumb. And my 4-year-old Henny said it was a baby park. Surely we can do better than this for the kids in this area. Please make this park a park that will be utilised by all families. And we've seen the proof of it in Breeze West Street, and that shows what can be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Are there any councillors that wish to respond? Councillor Bolton.
For people who are viewing this online who might not have seen the council agenda, there is going to be a notice of motion which will be debated a bit later on. I think the issue here is having a playground for all age groups of children, including school-aged children. And this will be debated later on, but there is certainly a strong view in the community, which I hold myself, that this needs to be a park for a broad range of age groups. And, you know, Moreland certainly needs to have more playgrounds, which are not just exclusively for toddlers, but for older age groups of children as well.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. I'll now ask Mahmood Karama to speak if they are in the waiting room. Is Osno Akbas in the waiting room?
Mahmood is here. He's just trying to connect.
Great,
Yes.
thank you. Hi, Mahmood, we can see you.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, can I start?
Yes, you can. Please start.
Okay, first of all, thanks for giving me this opportunity. I am also speaking on behalf of Kurdish Democratic Community Center of Victoria, which is based in your municipal area. And I think we can all agree that world is a global village today. Whatever happened other part of the world affect us here as well, whether it's Turkish government mistreatment of Kurdish people or Chinese government mistreatment of Uyghur Turks. And apart many other human rights violations in Turkey, unfortunately, elected mayors and councillors forcibly removed from their post, and government trustee appointed. And this is violation of basic democratic rights, which is right to elect and right to be elected. This rights denied from Kurdish people. Therefore, by moving this motion today, you will be standing up for democracy, human rights, and you also would show solidarity with your colleagues in Turkey. Today, Turkish jails not only full of Kurdish politicians and activists, but also many Turkish academic, intellectual, journalists, students, and lawyers who oppose Erdogan regime are in jail today. And therefore, also Turkish people suffering from this regime. I can't imagine why anyone can be against this motion unless they are against democracy and supporting dictatorship. I just want to give a quick example how it affects our life here. And about 2 years ago, a Kurdish family from Perth and young Kurdish men from Sydney, Australian Kurdish men, they went to Turkey to visit their family. At the airport, they briefly arrested, their passport taken away from them, and they accused to attend anti-government rallies in Perth and Sydney. It took them almost a year to get back their passport and come to Australia. And those people lost their jobs and kids missed their school. Therefore, this regime is really anti-democratic regime. Our community members hesitate to go to Turkey because they can be arrested at the airport. This is becoming very common in Turkey. I think we should, it's time to, thank you. We should stand up against this anti-democratic regime in favor of democracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, thank you. Councillors, just to let you know that when there's a statement, I'm actually not meant to ask for comment from councillors. So I'll move on to the next speaker, who also has a statement, and that is Osnur Akbas.
Thank you, and good evening to everybody. My name is Osnur Akbas, and I'm a resident in the suburb of Oak Park. And today I wish to make a statement in support of the motion that is tabled at today's meeting in relation to support for persecuted mayors and councillors in Turkey. I am a member of the Federation of Democratic Kurdish Society and a committed member in the Kurdish Women's Group. Both of these entities conduct community activities in the local community centre in Pascoe Vale. Today, I not only speak on behalf of myself, but also want to take the opportunity to state that the members of our Kurdish community are also in support of this motion that has righteously been tabled for support today. Many of our members are either first-generation migrants, including myself, are either refugees or asylum seekers who have escaped persecution from parts of the Middle East, including Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Syria. There is obviously a long history into how our homeland was divided amongst these countries after World War I, which I obviously can't go into details of today, but believe that the fate of the Kurds is probably well known to many of you listening. We support this motion because we have many loved ones, including family and friends that are still living in Turkey and are denied basic rights to identity and dignity. And the only means of raising one's voice in Turkey has been being able to democratically elect mayors and councillors who are able to advocate for the rights of all of its citizens, and not just the Kurds, all of them, and who have now either been forcibly removed from office, jailed, or prevented from taking up their positions and have been replaced with government appointees. This act also affects the Kurdish community living here in Melbourne. As stated, we have loved ones still back at home and currently living under the direct ruling of the Erdogan regime and continue to be denied their basic rights, including the right to democratically elect their public officials. We say that condemning this act and expressing solidarity with the democratically elected mayors and councillors across Turkey who have been unjustly prevented from taking up their positions or have been forcibly removed from office is an act against democracy and should be criticised.
Osnur, your time is up now, but if you could just wrap up. Thank you.
So it's, as I said, it's a privilege to be living in Melbourne, but there are just injustices happening abroad and is affecting the mental health of many of our community members here. And therefore, we seek support of councillors today to pass this motion. And thank you all for motioning it.
Thank you. I now ask Osman Kuruk to speak.
Good evening, everybody. Having a bit of technical problems here, so I'm sorry about that. I briefly wanted to express my disappointment in the council having such an agenda on tonight's meeting, which really is, as you can see, putting a division between the members of the community here in Melbourne and particularly the Moreland region as well. We're actually a community that lives in harmony here in Melbourne, minding our own business. And I'm actually taken by surprise that the Moreland City Council will have such an agenda on the table to discuss overseas politics when it really is a bit beyond Moreland City Council to be able to change the world politics when there are many, many other home important issues that Moreland City Council should be addressing. And we're actually voicing our opinion in the disappointment of this agenda tonight as ATBC, and we would like to condemn the agenda, and that's our opinion. Thank you for tonight allowing us to speak. And I just really don't want to go into the whole heap of politics about the agenda. I really think it's out of place, out of character for Moreland Council to take up such a agenda, such an opinion, and bring it on the table. It does nothing. It serves no purpose other than putting a.
Osman, your time is running up. If you can just.
Well, we're all having difficulties in our own lives at the moment without having further divisions put between the people, the public of Moreland and the Turkish community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so just to state, councillors and those watching at home, that if someone isn't in attendance tonight, we won't be able to hear their question, as we're back to normal question time now, where you have to be in attendance via Zoom or similarly when we go back to the chamber. However, we do have all your questions and we'll circulate them all to councillors and have the responses on notice and be able to give you those responses. So the next speaker is Alexander Napolitano.
We would like to condemn the nothing. It's
I think he's in the meeting.
Hello, can you hear me there? Great. Okay.
Yes, Alexander, we can hear you. Alexander, if you could just choose one question to ask, and then if we have time later on, we'll invite you to ask a second question.
Okay, sure. Well, I've listed my statement. The question's more in the context of that statement, but I guess I'll just ask the question if that's all right.
Yes, thank you.
My question tonight is, what is Council doing to implement the significant feedback regarding Coburg Olympic Pool as outlined in my statement and the Aquatic and Leisure Strategy background paper, specifically heating of the pool, increased and more consistent operating hours, and infrastructure improvements to change rooms and shade provision?
Excuse me, Mayor. I think it would make the question would make more sense if Alex was able to make his statement.
I believe that the director, Arden Joseph, is able to respond to that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you.
Arden, your sound's a bit low. Are you able to put it up? No.
This is the CEO, and I'm aware of having talked to Director Arden Joseph in the last half hour. I'm aware of how he's going to respond. He was going to say, thanks so much for the question and for the thinking. Lots of ideas in what's been put forward by Mr. Napolitano. And Mr. Joseph would like to propose to arrange a meeting with Mr. Napolitano in order to talk through the issues that have been raised and hear those ideas and respond. So thanks very much, Mr. Napolitano.
Great, thank you, Kathy and Arden. And thank you, Alexander, for your question. I'll now ask Lois Knight to ask her question.
It doesn't appear that Lois is in the meeting.
She's been admitted, but apparently it's still saying joining, so it might be a connection. And here we go. Lois, we can see you now.
Hi, thanks very much for the chance to talk. Sorry about the tech problems earlier. I'm part of the Gowan Park Community Action Group, and my children and a large group from Brunswick North Primary School were part of Moreland's brilliant A Park Close to Home engagement process, specifically Breeze Street and Tinning Street. The children experienced active citizenship for the first time, and they're really excited about the new park. And we're thrilled about the new Merri-bek Park, which fully responds to the children's consultation process. And it also meets Moreland's, I think I might have lost you there. Can you hear me?
I can still hear you.
Yeah? Yeah, so it meets Moreland's play strategy and open space strategy, which emphasises multi-age use and integrated design and landscaping. But the children are terribly disappointed with the outcome at Gowan Park because it's only suitable for toddlers. And so, which is also like many other parks in the area. So Gowan will not be used by school-age children, which is really sad because they had believed themselves to be part of the design process. And if this remains as it is, it will not be well utilised and is thus a huge waste of public funds. So can Council please guarantee that they will redesign Gowan Park and that children and the community will be involved, and that the park, the new redesigned park, will meet the standards in the play and open space strategies? Thanks.
Thank you, Lois. And now Anita Penner, the Director of City Infrastructure, will respond.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Lois, for your question and for your feedback. As we heard earlier from Councillor Bolton, there is a motion from Councillor Bolton tonight on this matter, and Council will be debating it and voting on that motion. So feedback on Council's resolution on the matter will be provided following the meeting.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Lois, for your question, and thank you, Anita. That brings us to the end of question time, and as there are no more questions based on the agenda, we won't be able to take the other questions tonight. However, I will just take a moment to respond briefly to the items just generally. So just to say to Martin Ball that Arden Joseph, our Director, has also invited you to have the same meeting with the Council officers regarding the Coburg Olympic pool. And also to say to the Hoskin Reserve residents that the consortium for the consultation is through the Community Collaborative, and the group is completely independent from council. So that will be the group running the consultation with you all. Thank you to everyone who has attended our online meeting with our first question time. It hasn't been the smoothest, but it has definitely been great to reinvigorate our democracy, and we definitely hope that next council meeting will be in person. We'll now move to council reports. The first report we have to consider this evening is Newlands Road intersection signalisation and Commonwealth infrastructure funding. Do I have a mover? Councillor Bolton, and a seconder, Councillor El Halabi. Councillor Bolton, do you wish to speak?
Yes, I definitely would like to speak to this motion. This is a motion to remove the roundabout on the corner of Newlands Road and McMahon's Road. Newlands Road is a very busy road and a fairly unique road in Moreland, because at the southern end, at the bottom of the hill, there's a whole lot of residents, including a lot of families with young children and nearby schools and kindergartens, etc. And at the top of the hill, you've got an industrial area, a really busy industrial area with a very high number of trucks, including heavy trucks, moving at speed, and a real lack of safe pedestrian crossings and so forth, and a lot of crashes on the road. So this, this proposal is an outcome of a notice of motion I moved some years ago. These things take a long time to achieve. Now, this doesn't resolve all of the issues on the road. There's still a need for safe cycling lanes and other measures as well. But this will be a big improvement to have a signalised intersection here, because it's really just been a really unsafe area for pedestrians, lack of pram ramps for parents with kids in prams and so forth. So I think this will help with the number of accidents that are happening around about this roundabout. Doesn't resolve all the issues, but this will certainly be a help.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor El Halabi, did you wish to speak?
No, it's Councillor Bolton covered the whole report. I'm happy with that.
Thank you. I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. We'll now move to Sport and Recreation Victoria Stimulus Funding Grant Application 7.2. Do I have a mover?
Yes, I'm happy.
Conlon. Oh, Councillor. Sorry, is there an amendment?
Yeah.
So Councillor Conlon and Councillor Yildiz to second, depending on the amendment.
Yeah, cool. So the amendment, sorry, just finding my place. Yeah, the amendment is about, so it says it's about making sure that there's adequate consultation for the local residents as part of this project if Moreland Council is successful in securing the grants. I've forwarded the motion or the amended motion to councillors and officers.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Councillor Conlon. Councillor Yildiz, you happy to second?
Not really, because I want to know, Councillor Conlon, what will that entail? What will that consultation entail?
So I can read out the motion again. It says, if council's grant is successful, that nearby residents to the parks are notified in writing of the proposed lighting projects and are provided meaningful opportunities to provide input to the outcome. I'm happy to talk about the reason behind the motion. So yeah, basically, obviously we've had some issues with community consultation recently. So this amendment is just to make sure that local residents are fully informed of what's happening in their local area. We're talking about overall, I think lighting upgrades are a good thing, especially from an environmental sustainability perspective, because LEDs obviously save.
To second?
Councillor Bolton, you can second.
I'm happy to second.
All right.
So you can keep going.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, it's about saving energy, which is a good thing, and also providing improvements to those sporting facilities. But I think given that there's the potential for things like light pollution to local areas and neighbouring residents. I just think council needs to make sure it's doing its best to make sure that the local residents know what's going on and can have some say over the process.
Mayor, I have a question if that is allowable.
Yes,
I'm just a little bit confused. Is this information to residents about works occurring in the locations near their properties, or is this consultation? Because if it's consultation, it really should occur prior to securing grants. There's no point in consulting residents when you already have a grant to do works. I mean, which way round do you want this to occur?
So I can read out the motion again. It says, if council's grant is successful, that nearby residents to the above parks are notified in writing of the proposed lighting projects and are provided meaningful opportunities to provide input to the outcome. So this amendment is subject to council securing those grants.
Councillor Bolton, did you wish to speak?
Just very briefly, because I think the points have been made. I think this motion, the slight amendment to the officer's recommendation, is really just to sort of guarantee information to residents. I think from the report, officers have gone to great lengths to try and make sure that the lighting satisfies the sports clubs as well as doesn't impede on residents who are living right beside those sports fields. I mean, I think it is a good project because it will enable sports clubs, especially in winter months when it's very dark, to be able to use more of the sports fields. But there's always that can be a clash because the lights can be very bright, and just to make sure that residents' amenity is also looked after. So, this is should be a very simple motion.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Davidson.
There's a few facts for this report that I'd like to point out. Councillor Oscar Yildiz and myself are the portfolio councillors for sport and recreation. This is a fantastic opportunity that council has been afforded to apply for this grant. Going through this process and having the report brought to council is one of the first times that council has been required to do that. And it's
Councillor
not
Davidson, can I just check if you're speaking in favour or against Councillor Conlon's motion?
I'm speaking against, but it's also to point out facts to councillors and to the gallery as well.
Yeah,
So
thank you. That's fine.
it's important that people are aware that the report actually states that there's going to be, that the 9 locations that have been listed here already have existing lighting. So there's already lighting there. The LED lighting is going to be something that's much more efficient, economically and environmentally. On top of that, the throw-off lighting, if residents are concerned, there's a point in the report that already states that the throw-off lighting will not impact surrounding residential areas. This is an opportunity that we lost last time when an application was put to council and we weren't successful in that application. Having this application go forward now is going to secure a lot of jobs, a lot of community benefit for sporting clubs, residents and the local community. It's not something to be complicated by red tape. It's something that all councillors should support, and local residents will be advised of the grant application. That says it's in the report. I think that local residents and people interested in this need to inform themselves of the report that's coming to council and be excited about the prospect of having sports grounds with updated lighting that's removing the existing lighting and putting better lighting there. There's no new sports grounds that are going to have additional lighting put on that wasn't already there. So I'm very much in favour. I don't think that it needs any further complications.
Great. Councillor Davison, can I just see whether you're foreshadowing the officer recommendation?
That's correct, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm seconding.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Yildiz.
Can I speak against as well, or are you going to wait for someone to speak for?
So I'm just going to check because now I'm up to a person in favour of Councillor Conlon's motion, and then I can ask you to speak against. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak in favour of Councillor Conlon's motion?
Mayor, I would speak in favour, but I'm probably going to vote against.
No, Councillor Tapanos, if we can. What I will let happen is Councillor Yildiz to speak against, as he is seconding the foreshadow motion, and then we will put this motion to a vote. Unless Councillor Conlon, of course, will have the right of reply. Thank you, Councillor Yildiz.
I'll speak in favour if you like, to keep the debate going, Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Riley.
Thank you. Look, yeah, I'm a bit surprised that some councillors are supportive of this. Even if it's mentioned in the report, it's just making sure that and sending a signal to the community that we are going to do that after what's happened with some of our other consultations and the question time tonight and some of the issues around Hoskin Reserve last year. I just think it's just reassuring the community that we are going to communicate with them, and I think it's a good thing to do. I would be surprised if not all councillors are supportive of that. So thank you to Councillor Conlon for suggesting it.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Councillor Yildiz.
Councillors and those people watching, this funding in total is 4,169,270. There are clubs here that have been waiting for this upgrade for years. And we're talking about not a couple of hundred kids or a couple of hundred, sporting groups playing on these facilities. There are some grounds that have lighting that was in fact erected back in the 1980s. This is much needed for us to go out to the community and ask the community for their opinion. This is going to further delay the process. We need to get on with it. And this funding of $3,769,000 from Sport and Recreation Victoria, if we don't get on and get this funding, we're probably going to lose it. And I can tell you now, these 9 sporting clubs have a lot of members, have a lot of people tonight watching, waiting for this council hopefully to endorse the motion, the original motion, I should say. I just can't believe that we're going to go out potentially to the community and ask them when they've already got lighting on these facilities. And I'm looking at some of the names of these clubs. I'm talking about, City Oval, Oak Park, Rayburn Reserve, Dunstan, Allard Park, Charles Martin. They've been asking for this for years. I just can't believe that we're going to further delay it. If anything, we need to get on with it, accept this funding. And in the past, unfortunately, we haven't accepted some funding and we've lost it. This is a golden opportunity for thousands of kids and thousands of members to be able to see. There are some kids on these football and soccer fields that can't even see the football. They can't even train. They've got to train under one single light pole because they can't get any light from the other three. I can appreciate Councillor Conlon in terms of he's wanting to consult with the community, but that's what we're here for. That's what we got elected to do. We don't get elected to then go back and ask our residents for everything that we vote on. If we did that, I mean, could you imagine what could happen? So I appreciate your amendment. I won't be voting for it.
Thank you, Councillor Yildiz. Councillor Conlon, did you wish to reply?
Yeah, I'm just a bit shocked at the controversy. This is really just about making sure that I'm totally in favour of the project and want it to go ahead, but if we get the grant and the funding, that we just make sure we go out and talk to the locals before it happens. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that lost.
Can we have a division, please?
Yes, we can have a division. All those in favour? Councillor Conlon, Councillor Bolton, Councillor Pulford, Councillor Panopoulos and Councillor Riley. All those against? Councillor Davidson, Councillor Pavlidis, Councillor El Halabi, Councillor Tapanos, Councillor Yildiz and Councillor Carly Hannon. We'll now move to Councillor Davidson's foreshadowed motion.
Thank you. The foreshadowed motion is just as the report reads, to apply for the funding for the just under $4 million to upgrade the existing lighting infrastructure. The report notes some very good features of that, which I've already spoken to. I think it's something that we just need to get along with and get the job done so that these sporting grounds, hopefully, if the grant is successful, can reap the benefit of the LED lighting.
Thank you, Councillor Davidson. Councillor Yildiz?
I don't want to add any more, but I concur with Councillor Davidson, and I hopefully looks like this motion will be a resolution soon, and I congratulate those clubs, and I also congratulate the director and his team to be able to get all this funding, because I'm sure in terms of writing all the documents, tender documents to get this funding was arduous, excuse me. So congratulations to them, and I really commend them and thank them, because these clubs are certainly going to be quite pleased with tonight's outcome, I hope.
Thank you, Councillor Yildiz. Are there any other speakers against? No. Councillor Tapanos in favour?
Yeah, I'll just be quick because I think there's been adequate debate, but just to point out that not only is this meeting so many of our strategies around active sports, but it's also meeting our environmental strategies as well. And by converting these existing lights to LED, we would be saving a lot of carbon emissions and going a long way towards making Moreland carbon neutral. So I think we should get on with it.
Thank you, Councillor Tapanos. I'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. We'll now move to 7.3, Library Hours Trial. Do I have a mover? Councillor Panopoulos, and a seconder? Seconder, Councillor Riley. Councillor Panopoulos.
Thank you. So I'd like to move this item, and I'd also like to propose an amendment. So is that one comes later, doesn't it?
No, you can do that.
No.
No?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So I'd like to also propose an amendment to the second item of the officer recommendation, that we receive a report at the July 2021 council meeting evaluating the trial. And that's just so that we have a definitive time of when we're actually going to get that report back. And so that we can move forward and decide if these new hours are working for our community and for our staff. And so we can make our libraries as good as they possibly can be. I think this is a great proposal, and I'm quite keen to see how it all turns out.
Thank you, Councillor Panopoulos. Councillor Riley?
No.
Thank you. Are there any speakers against? There being none, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. We'll now move to 7.4, Draft Sponsorship Policy. Councillor Bolton with an amendment. Is there a seconder for Councillor Bolton's motion, including her amendments? Yeah, I'll just say, you read them out and we'll see if there's a seconder.
Just read it out. That council notes that it adopted guidelines for sponsorship and donations in 2016. Council will update this policy with regard to guidelines for accepting sponsorships from not-for-profit organisations, but rejects accepting sponsorships from commercial organisations for its events and festivals. That council receives a report on the updated draft.
Are there any councillors who are willing to second this item? There being none, that lapses. Is there another motion by councillors? Councillor Tapanos?
I'll move the officer's recommendation, which is to adopt the draft sponsorship policy at attachment 1 as listed in the agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Tapanos. Is there a seconder for Councillor Tapanos's motion? Councillor El Halabi. Councillor Tapanos, did you wish to speak any further?
Just briefly, just to say that it is really good that we are actually developing this piece of work, which would guide our acceptance of sponsorship for a whole range of council events and activities. There's no doubt that we've been operating and accepting sponsorship from many people and many businesses in our city. So I think that's why it's important that we enable that commercial sponsorship as well, right? Because it is a lot of our local businesses that would want to sponsor a lot of local events happening in their community. But we have been doing this already. It's not like community sponsorship of events is new, but it's great to see that a policy has been developed that does guide our decision making of what to accept and what to reject into the future. So I think it's a good step to actually have a policy, and I'm really pleased with the work that's gone into this.
Thank you, Councillor Tapanos. Councillor El Halabi?
Councillor Tapanos covered the whole lot, so I'm happy with the policy the way it stands.
Thank you. Are there any speakers against? Councillor Panopoulos.
Not so much against, I just have a few amendments to propose to the officer recommendation. I believe that they'll be up on the screen shortly. They're just word changes that were circulated earlier regarding the review date and some definitions.
Great.
Councillor,
yeah, thank you. Councillor Tapanos, are those acceptable?
They're acceptable to me.
Thank you. Councillor El-Halabi?
Yes, I'm happy with that.
No, I've got an amendment.
Yeah, that's fine, Councillor Con.
I'm going to move Sue's amendment in similar words.
Okay. Does Councillor Conlon have a seconder? Councillor Bolton. Councillor Conlon.
The point of order, Mayor, we've already dealt with this matter and it's...
I can change the words if you want, but it's basically the same sentiment.
Well, that would
Okay,
be
apologies. That's not an amendment because, sorry, that's not an amendment because it is too different from the report. So therefore, it would have to be a foreshadowed motion. So Councillor Conlon, you're welcome to speak against the officer's report, and you could foreshadow.
Why is it different? What do you mean it's different from the officer's report? So if Sue can move the amendment, surely I can too.
No, so she moved a completely different motion, like hers was a motion that was separate, whereas what you're trying to do is amend a substantive report.
Okay, well, I guess, so my amendment is to delay this policy for 3 months.
Okay, well, you could actually move to defer the report.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, so Councillor Conlon's moving to defer. Councillor Bolton to second. There's no debate on deferral, is that correct?
I would like to speak to it.
I was hoping, Mayor, Councillor, if you could just let me, can I just point of clarification, please, Mayor?
Yeah, sure, thank you.
I was hoping to speak against this so that there would be some idea as to why this matter could be deferred or should be deferred. Councillor Conlon's actually gone for a deferral immediately, but I thought I would have preferred us to have a bit of a debate so we can actually highlight the issues so that other councils could understand why a deferral might be useful and necessary.
Okay, I've had clarification that a deferral can be debated. So we can move, if Councillor Conlon wishes to speak to his deferral motion, we can move that.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Sorry about the confusion. I'm still learning on my
confusing. Don't worry.
So I guess the first justification for this policy. So basically, this policy is about council going out and actively seeking private money from companies to fund events and festivals and such. So the first justification for the policy is that it places a policy around a practice that's already happening in council. So council's already doing this and getting companies to receiving money from companies to fund certain things. So for example, Yarra Trams and Vibe Hotels currently pay Moreland to have their logos on the Brunswick Music Festival promotion material. And there's other smaller companies that do that too, but it's particularly these types of relationships that I'm particularly uncomfortable about that already do happen. So this policy not only locks that practice in, it actually enables and expands council officers' ability to actively pursue these commercial arrangements in a much more systematic way. I don't think it's appropriate to plug revenue gaps in council's income in this way. I think we do need to have a broader conversation in council about how we're going to raise money and pay for the goods and services that we provide in a rate-capped environment. But I think seeking money from big business in the form of sponsorships is not the way forward, in my view. I think it's pretty clear that donations always come with expectations of receiving something in return. And that's why fossil fuel companies and developers pour millions of dollars into the coffers of major parties as they expect favourable treatment which they receive. So while this policy has some exemptions on those types of businesses, it doesn't actually, such as fossil fuel, gambling and tobacco companies, there are actually no exclusions for, say, developers or other multinational corporations, which I think is extremely concerning. So I think this policy could lead to Moreland Council hosting, say, the Merri-bek Music Festival, the John Holland Farmers Market, or the Bunnings Street Food Party, perhaps with free sausages, but I don't know if that's a good path that we should be pursuing.
So when we
Thank
speak
you.
to the deferral, can we actually speak to the deferral, not the substantive? Like, why do you want it deferred or not? Like, it just seems that that was a discussion against the policy. But I'd like to hear in a deferral debate, why does this policy that officers have put up tonight need to be deferred for 3 months? Why can't a decision be made on this? And I haven't heard anything yet.
Thank you, Councillor Tapanos. I've just had a clarification that because a deferral is a procedural motion, we weren't meant to debate procedural. So we might just let's debate the substantive, as there's obviously stuff to debate, and then we will move back to the deferral. So Councillor Conlon, I'm going to take that as you speaking against the substantive motion. I'll now ask for a councillor to speak in favour of the substantive.
Point of order. Normally we have no debate on deferral. We move straight to the vote. I mean, I would prefer to vote against the motion rather than defer it, but I'm happy to support a deferral.
That's right. Do you want to do that, Councillor Bolton?
Normally we do a deferral before, you know, like normally a deferral stops the debate on the motion.
Absolutely, and I thought that was the case, and then I got advice that was to the contrary, and now I'm bringing it back. So apologies for that. I just felt that given I'd given Councillor Conlon an opportunity to debate, I felt it fair to give other councillors, but given we have no councillors in favour, we will now put the deferral to the vote. So all those in favour of deferral?
Oh, sorry, another point of order. There's like Sally, CEO, has just put in the chat that we are able to debate a deferral, just FYI.
Okay.
Okay, that's never been the practice before, that we've been able to debate a deferral, and I question that. I think we need to move on with this now.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Davidson. We're going to put the deferral to a vote. So all those in favour of the deferral? All those against? I declare the deferral lost.
Have a division, please.
Okay. All those in favour of the deferral? Councillor Bolton, Councillor Panopoulos, Councillor Pulford, Councillor Conlon and Councillor Riley. All those against? Councillor Davidson, Councillor Pavlidis, Councillor El Halabi, Councillor Tapanos, Councillor Yildiz and Councillor Carly Hannon. We will now move to the substantive motion that we were debating. Is there someone who wishes to speak in favour of the substantive motion? If there is not, Councillor Tapanos, did you wish to have a right of reply?
Could I speak?
We're only up to someone in favour of the substantive.
Mayor, can I just make a point of order, please?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, this has been a difficult debate and I understand the procedural issues have been a bit confused. So I would beg the indulgence of the chair to allow some debate, further debate, to hear what the concerns are from other councillors so that the public are aware why there have been some questions raised around this and why there was some suggestion of and a move for a deferral. I know we've debated that, but now that we're going back into the substantive, it would be good to be able to flesh that out and understand a bit more as to why this policy might need to have some further light thrown on it and discussion. So that's my point of order. Thanks.
Actually, I tried to move an alternative resolution. I wasn't allowed to speak to it, so I'm
okay. I'm now going to, sorry, I'm going to step in as chair to say that we have had the debate because I've allowed Councillor Bolton's motion. It did not have a seconder. I've now allowed a deferral procedural motion that lost. We have got the substantive motion. We've had one in favour, one against. So therefore, it is now Councillor Tapanos's turn to do a right of reply.
Thank you, Mayor. And certainly it is correct that there's a lot of confusion. A lot of people seem to be confused. One minute they want to shut down the debate and move a deferral, and then the other minute they want to have the debate. But look, I think this policy speaks for itself. There must be some councillors must have some real trust issues with officers and the organisation, because this has been happening. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a local business supporting a local event in our community. I mean, we're going to be responsible. And of course, it sets the parameters about being responsible and make sure that those commercial entities that agree with our values are allowed and others are not. That is all part of this strategy. So to sort of think of the worst case scenario of what might happen if council officers seek sponsorship is really like concerning from where I stand. I think this is a policy well overdue, and we need to get on with it and adopt it and look forward to a lot of our community events actually having support from our local businesses and many other community organisations, because with additional money, we could do a lot more.
Thank you, Councillor Tapanos. I'll now put this motion to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried.
We have a division, thank you.
All those in
please.
favour? Councillor Davidson, Councillor Carly Hannon, Councillor Pavlidis, Councillor El Halabi, Councillor Tapanos, Councillor Yildiz. All those against? Councillor Bolton, Councillor Panopoulos, Councillor Pulford, Councillor Conlon, Councillor Riley. All right, thank you, councillors. We'll now move to 7.5, reinstatement of paid parking. Do I have a mover? I'm happy to move this from the chair. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it for you.
Thank you, Councillor El Halabi. And just to state for those watching from home that this is obviously based on the COVID-19 holding of paid parking from last year, and now, you know, with lockdown ending and things returning to some level of normality, we're returning to having paid parking. Councillor El Halabi, did you wish to speak?
No, I'm fine.
Are there any speakers against? Councillor Tapanos.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I think it was a great thing to actually remove paid parking from some of the car parks in Brunswick, which are the only ones who have paid parking in the city, to my knowledge. And I think it was well received by the community. If you actually have a look at the impact to council's revenue, it's actually quite small. And that's partly because there is what the state government calls a congestion levy, which is a state government tax, which means for every bay of paid parking, we need to pay a tax to the state government. So I think you would find that when you remove the tax, the maintenance of these machines, there's actually very little financial benefit to council from actually maintaining paid car parking in these car parks. But it's a huge benefit to the community. Many of them are struggling to find a car park on our streets. It's a huge benefit for them to be able to park in car parks, not on our streets. And I reflect back on the discussion about Sydney Road, and there are many councillors here that want to remove car parking from Sydney Road. Well, in order to do that, you need to provide an incentive. You need to provide an incentive for people to pay in car parks. And charging them a fee does not meet that incentive test. It's counterproductive. So I would like to move that we, that we don't adopt this, that we don't reintroduce this. I'll be voting against this because I think for the small financial windfall that we get as a council, it costs us a lot more, costs our community a lot more, and it creates actually more congestion in our city in a way, and makes our long-term vision for Sydney Road a lot harder. We should be encouraging people to park off Sydney Road, not on Sydney Road, and putting paid meters is a disincentive to parking there, and it is encouraging people to park on Sydney Road, which is not what we want. So I think, you know, we should forget about the small financial revenue and do a good thing for the community and just remove parking meters altogether from these car parks.
Thank you, Councillor Tapanos. Are there any speakers in favour?
One of clarification, the Mayor.
Yes, Councillor El Halabi.
Okay, is any other parking pay meter in Moreland?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Any other parking pay meters in Moreland? So they got a pay meters there and there. In any others in Coburg or any other place in Glenroy, so we don't have pay meters.
We'll have to ask an officer for a summary of where Anita?
Councillor El Halabi, the sites that are named in the report are the only sites with paid parking within Moreland.
Thank you, Anita. All right, I'll put that to the vote now. So all those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried.
Can I have my opposition noted, please?
A division, please.
Oh, a division.
All right, Councillor Tapanos has called for a division. All those in favour? Councillor Carly Hannon, Councillor Bolton, Councillor Panopoulos, Councillor Halabi, Councillor Pulford, Councillor Conlon, Councillor Riley. All those against? Councillor Davison, Councillor Pavlidis, Councillor Topanos, Councillor Yildiz.
Can I ask a point of clarification? Sorry, what was the motion that we're voting for? I know it's the parking, but is it for the officer's recommendation or Councillor Tapanos's?
Officer's recommendation.
I'm against.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now move to the temporary road closure, Carlisle Street, Coburg. Councillor Bolton.
I'd like to move this resolution with the amendment of extending consultation area to Coburg Street instead of Barrow Street. So it's extending it by one block, and maybe in the discussion, councillors might want to nominate themselves as part of the submission committee. And for viewers online, well, maybe I should wait to see if there's a seconder first.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Is there a seconder for Councillor Bolton's motion? Councillor Conlon.
So what the motion is about is that council was planning to resheet the road surface. It's one of those very tiny, narrow little streets where it's really just a slightly wider than a laneway, where there's not enough room on the footpath to push a pram along. You have to really push a pram on the main street, on the street itself. And some local residents put a petition to council basically calling for the street to be closed to all except local traffic and some streetscape works to be made. It's mostly used by pedestrians and cyclists because it's a cut through path to Nicholson Street. Now there are some driveways to garages on it, and so that's why the resolution accommodates that by starting the closure point out away from those driveways, away from those entrances to people's garages. So it accommodates the local residents and local traffic, but it's closed to other traffic, and it's really mainly a pedestrian and cyclist sort of pathway. And if you go there, you see hardly any cars that go along there. And so this was something put to council by local residents. My only amendment is to extend the consultation area by one block to Coburg Street instead of Barrow Street.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Conlon, did you wish to speak?
Yeah, I think it's a really good opportunity for council to transform this little street into a great pedestrian little corridor, as well as making it a lot greener with lots of trees and all that sort of thing. It's quite dangerous at the moment. There's much more people walking down the street, especially getting to the local school there. So yeah, it's already pretty dangerous for those people. So I think it would be benefit a lot from having a proper upgrade, and this is a good opportunity to do it since council's just about to resurface the road anyway. So yeah, it sounds like a good idea proposed by the residents.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Is there a speaker against? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. I'm sorry. We needed a councillor for the committee. Sorry, I forgot that. I was going to recommend the
portfolio councillors.
The ward councillors, Councillor Halabi.
The portfolio councillors, that's under transport and get around.
I'm happy with that, the portfolio councillors.
I second the Mayor's amendment that normally we do the ward councillors, Councillor Halabi.
Yeah.
But you have a councillors responsible, and I think they should be involved. And they can add ward councillors on the top of that if I don't mind.
So that would be quite a few. So that would be Councillors Conlon, Councillors Halabi, Councillor Cully-Hannon, Councillor Pulford, myself, Councillor Bolton, and Councillor Pulford, and Councillor Pavlidis, sorry.
I don't
It's
see a
quite a
problem
big committee, but I'm happy to have a big
Okay.
committee unless anyone wants to drop off it.
Okay, let's do that then. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Great. So now we're up to 7.7, Amendment C193, Commercial 3 Zone, Progress Report. Move Councillor Riley.
Yeah, I'd like to move the motion with the circulated proposed amendment at point 2.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Is there a seconder for Councillor Riley's motion?
What's the
Councillor
amendment?
Panopoulos.
It's been circulated. I'll read it out. It's
Thank
very
you.
brief. That all submitters to the C192, C193 and C164 amendment processes, in addition to the landowners with land, including the amendment as amendment C193, be advised of this progress report via a letter and email.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. You can speak to the motion now.
Yeah, look, thank you. This is quite a lengthy process, and it's a rather complicated history. So I don't wish to sort of speak to that really, because it'll probably take too long to try and explain it. However, the reason why the officers are suggesting that we include this new consideration from the Department of Environment, Water, Land and Planning is that we consider a new concept for managing our industrial zones or commercial zone 3s in our Brunswick Activity Centre. I know there are community Brunswick Residents Network and others that have some concerns about this, but it's a notion to look at the moment, and I think it's worthwhile us considering that and hearing further about that, given the complexities to date, and that this policy initiative is being suggested as a further consideration at this point in time. So I think it's important that we consider everything we can at the moment and take our time to do that. We're not rushing this. This is just noting that the fact this is coming up, and that we will be able to actually explore what other options may improve things or may actually put things at risk, but at least the community and councillors can give it much more consideration. So I think it's a good way to proceed. And the amendment really is just, my amendment is to really just not just ensure that developers and landowners get advised, but that those submitters to these processes who've been interested and keen also get notified. So it's just a way of ensuring we're engaging well over a fairly lengthy and complicated process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Councillor Riley, if you don't mind just circulating to governance the amendment once more. Even maybe just pop it in the chat.
I'll do that. Sorry, I thought it had been circulated. Thanks.
That's okay. Thank you. Councillor Conlon.
Oh, I don't actually have anything further to add.
That's okay. Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Are there any speakers against the item?
I've got an amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Have you circulated the amendment?
Well, it's really just to delete one point. I can tell you which point it is.
If you state the point, please. Yeah.
So the point to delete is 1A3, which is the potential use of the activity centre zone across the Brunswick Activity Centre. I can speak to it if I get a seconder.
I'll check first if that's acceptable to the mover.
No, I think it's better to keep the options in there at this point rather than take them out. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Conlon, sorry, it's okay, the second. Councillor Tabernos, are you seconding Councillor Bolton's
Oh, no.
amendment? No?
I would
Okay.
like to speak in favour.
1 second. Are there any speakers in who want to, sorry, are there any councillors who'd like to second Councillor Bolton's amendment? There being none, that lapses. Councillor Tabernos, sorry, no, we don't have any speakers against, so I'll put it to the vote if that's all those in favour.
Sorry, we're putting Mark's amendment,
Mark's
amended
motion to
motion.
the-
Yeah.
Yeah. All those in favour, all those against, I declare that carried.
I'm abstaining.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bolton. 7.8 Financial Management Report for the period ended 31 December 2020. Do I have a mover for this report? I'm happy. Councillor Panopoulos to move. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Conlon to second. Councillor Panopoulos, did you wish to speak?
No, I think it all speaks for itself within the report, so I'm all good on it.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon.
No.
Okay, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against, I declare that carried. Governance report, February 2021, sick leave report. We also need the mover to appoint a councillor for the Greek bicentenary committee.
I'll move the report and appoint Councillor Panopoulos and Councillor Pavlidis and myself to the committee.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for this report? Councillor Panopoulos. Thank you. Councillor Tabernos, did you wish to speak?
No, I think it's there's a few things in there, but I think it's all self-explanatory.
Thank you. Councillor Panopoulos.
No, same thing here.
Thank you. All right, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against, I declare that carried. We'll now move to 7.10, responsible ownership and signage for on-leash, off-leash areas. And this is a response to notice of motion 4220. Do I have a mover? Councillor Davidson, seconder, Councillor Bolton.
I'm happy to move the officer's report as read, and I just note that it included a consideration of improved signage along off-leash and on-leash areas to educate the community about walking their dog, and it looked at a whole other range of issues that arose when there was an issue with a dog attacking some native wildlife last year, and how to address that and better educate the public in dog management and having clear signage so that dog owners knew where they could allow their dog to be on leash and where they could allow their dog to be off leash. But in saying that, I think it's very important for dog owners, even if there is a sign that indicates your dog can be off leash, that they do have effective recall of their dog, so that if their dog does get into trouble or is not socialising correctly, they can call their dog back immediately to avoid any other risk. So it's a big responsibility having a dog, and proper signage does help, but also being able to train and manage your dog is very important. I note in the report as well that there was concerns about dog poop bags being left around, and I think that is a concern that as our registration of dogs increase, that people are trying to do the right thing, but requiring council to have appropriately located bins is also important. And I think that's something that we need to look at in future. I won't be making an amendment to this report at this point, but I think that it's something that I will foreshadow that council consider the increase of dog ownership and the corresponding use of public space, and potentially looking at available bins in appropriate communal areas.
Thank you, Councillor Davidson. Councillor Bolton, did you wish to speak?
Just an extra point in addition to the points that Councillor Davidson mentioned. There has definitely been confusion in Faulkner on the Merri Creek Trail about whether or not dogs should be on leash or off leash. and as well as the report, comments in the report about dogs attacking wildlife, there have been some dog attacks on people in the Fawkner area, and I think it does appear to be an issue where a number of people think it is an off-leash area, and partly I think that is a result of lack of signage and lack of knowledge, because it is a big open space along the creek banks there, and so I think there are a lot of people who assume it is an off-leash area. So, but I think the report is actually quite good in terms of the points that the council officers have picked up in their observations of a number of people not having effective control of their dogs and the issues that Councillor Davidson mentioned.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Are there any speakers against? I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against, I declare that carried. We'll now move to 7.11, Youth Program in the North of Moreland, response to notice of motion 5020. Councillor Bolton to move, Councillor Panopoulos to second.
So I'll move this. This was in response to a notice of motion. I'm not moving any amendments, or I'm just moving the council officer's recommendation. I am keen for more programs in the north of Moreland, especially because of the lack of public transport options for young people in the north to access youth programs in Coburg. But there is quite a wide range of activities that council has been involved in the north. So I think this report has been quite useful to get a feel for what sort of activities council has been involved in. Possibly the only addition would be, additional activity would be more use of the outdoor pools as a recreational activity for young people who might not be involved in organised sport or organised activities. But I think it is quite a useful and interesting report about the range of activities that exist in the north. And I note that there are some very dedicated youth ambassadors now. I mean, I'd still like to see the Oxygen Youth Committee exist as a real committee, but I know the youth ambassadors from the Fawkner area are very dedicated and have been very active on social media, asking for other young people to give them feedback on what they should be pushing. And I know that public transport is one of their big issues in the Fawkner area.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Panopoulos?
Thanks. Yeah, I'm very happy to second this motion. It is quite exciting to actually see it all written down in front of you clearly, what's happening for younger people in Moreland, and particularly in the north. And yeah, I think it's got a special kind of resonance with me, as I believe the youngest councillor out of all of us here, and it's my portfolio, and I have lived in the north, so it's quite exciting to see this. I know that COVID put quite a dampener on a lot of the new changes that were coming through, but I'm quite excited to see how it progresses into 2021. And also, once the Glenroy hub is built, how we can foster another hub up further in the north for our younger people. So I'm quite excited to see how this all progresses.
Thank you, Councillor Panopoulos. Are there any speakers against? No, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. We'll now move to 7.12, Building Site Waste Response to Notice of Motion 5319. Councillor Riley to move.
Thanks.
Is there a second to Councillor Pulford to second?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to move the officer recommendation as put in the agenda, which is about, and thank you for Councillor Pulford for seconding. So I'll speak to it, which is this motion is about addressing all of the waste that's coming off a lot of the building sites in our city, and people will be aware there are many of them. We have a lot of activity and development in our city, and a lot of the waste could be managed much better to reduce the amount going to landfill, and there's a huge cost the environment for that and to the climate emergency, but also with the increasing levies that the state government's imposing, it's going to make that less of an option for builders and contractors and people in the construction industry. So it's really important that we're doing what we can to educate and explain how they can do that. And with our zero waste target of 2030, it's also important that that's part of our strategy. The report outlines a lot of the recovery rates that we have in our city and how we need to improve those. We've still got a long way to go to get to a circular economy, but this motion is helping to take a step in that direction with further education and education for our residents and renovators in the city as well, and avoiding using our domestic bins for that because it's not appropriate. So we've got measures to actually, which we already have at our disposal, and we should need to exercise that perhaps a bit more often to avoid building waste going into any of our bins, inappropriately. So I think this is a good piece of work to help us move along the path to zero waste. So I commend the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Councillor Pulford?
No, nothing further to add.
Thank you. Are there any speakers against? No, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against, I declare that carried. We'll now move to 7.13, Merri Catchment Visioning Response to Notice of Motion 5620.
Yes,
Councillor
please.
Riley and Councillor Pulford to second. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pulford. Thank you, Mayor. Just in the motion, I put up a notice of motion at the last meeting, and the community along the Merri Creek and the broader catchment have suggested we do some envisioning after sort of 40 and 30 years of work along that creek and the great efforts of the Friends of Merri Creek and the other Friends of groups and series and many other groups. It's probably time that we really looked ahead to what we could be doing to actually further enhance that. It could involve food production or having more food production. When Joe's Garden is the oldest continuing market garden in Melbourne, and Series helped to maintain that. It's a great example of how we can produce food in an urban setting and to explore those options. But there are many other things happening along the creek as well. A lot of this work in the context came out of the dreadful tragedy where a woman was attacked there in late 2019, and the community really responded. I'm very proud of the Moreland and Darebin communities and their response to that, and the fact that woman managed to survive that. But it was a pretty horrific attack, and we know that other people have lost their lives. And it was the coming together of the communities from those tragedies that really are, this is a sort of a positive outcome of that. There's still work going along on that edge of the creek around safety measures and the big survey we've done. So that report will come to council shortly. So this is just another piece of work that the community have started to explore. And I think it'd be great that council finds some funds within the existing budget to help move that along and to maybe even include Darebin in the future. It won't at this stage, but it will if it's got any veracity. Hopefully it'll go on to doing bigger and better things. So it's to start to doing some mapping and exploring ideas and potential partnerships to really build on our communities, and it would help from all the way from Fawkner right down to Brunswick South and getting into sort of the top of North Fitzroy there. So I think a lot of potential, and I commend it to councillors and thank the officers for their work on this.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Councillor Pulford?
Yeah, just to add that obviously the Merri Creek is such an important area and part of our community, and I think a lot of us reconnected with Merri Creek and even beyond Moreland during the lockdowns of COVID last year. I think there's been such incredible community leadership over decades in maintaining Merri Creek, and I think I thank Councillor Riley for calling for this in the December meeting, and for council officers for preparing this report, and the community for their continued leadership. And I am excited that this motion could see council backing that community leadership with some budget as well. So I hope it is passed.
Thank you, Councillor Pulford. Are there any speakers against? No, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against, declare that carried. We'll now move to 714, contract Q13558, supply of mobile garage garbage bin contract extension. Do I have a mover? Councillor El Halabi, seconder. Councillor Pavlidis. Councillor El Halabi, did you wish to speak?
Yes, I move the officer recommendation at stand, which is allow the officers more time to get a new quotation and a new contract come back to the council. So nothing else I have to add beside what you've got on the report. That's the report speaks for itself.
Thank you, Councillor El Halabi. Councillor Pavlidis.
Nothing further, that's all being said. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour? Against, declare that carried. 715, contract RFT 2020 P132 for general tree and arboriculture services. Councillor Riley and Councillor Pulford.
I didn't realise I flashed, but I'm happy to move the motion. And now that I have a second, I'll just speak briefly to it. I think this is judicious. I think the timing is a bit unfortunate, and I'm a bit concerned about the timing of some of the reports on tonight's agenda, and the lack of kind of insight that new councillors and myself are having on these. But the good thing is that through the discussion on email, we've been able to clarify that this contracting out of the service is actually getting skills and things we don't have in-house. And I'm a bit concerned about contracting out generally, but we should be trying to build up our own staff resources and build those skills in-house. But I'm happy for this to go through at this point, but flagging that we should be trying to, wherever possible, add to our team and bring them in-house and have that skill in-house, because it's invaluable and it would go on into intergenerational for other communities. The work that we're doing on our nature plan and some of the work that some of us are proposing with the council vision and plan for this current council to get more understory and other levels of planting going on in our city, given the climate emergency and the need for that with our urban heat island effect. This is a really good contract to be letting out, and we need to have those services to get the tree canopy right so that we can actually develop the understory and turn a lot of the grassy areas into shrubs and other understory as well. So I think it's something we need to explore more of given the climate emergency. So I think it's a good contract to be letting out at this point.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Councillor Pulford?
I'm all good.
Any speakers against? No, put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against, declare that carried. 716, contract number RFT 2020-134, corporate planning, audit, risk and performance management system. Is there a mover for this item? Councillor Tapanos? I'll move. Councillor Bolton to second. I don't have anything further to add. Councillor Bolton, did you wish to speak?
Nothing more.
I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against, declare that carried. Councillors, I'll just move a motion to have a quick adjournment of 5 minutes before we move to notices of motion. All those in favour? Against, declare that carried.
Morland bölgesinde ilk banka memurları Türkçe bilen elemanlar bulundurmaktaydı. Bankaya gider, gaz ödemelerimizi vesaire bilmediğimiz konularda bize çok yardımları dokundu. Bunlar toplumun diğer bölgelerinde oturan Türk toplumunun da Brunswick ve Coburg bölgesine gelmesine büyük imkan sağladı. Erkekler ağır sanayide çalışma durumuna gitmiştik. Daha fazla para kazanmak için. Bu bölgede çok tekstil fabrikaları vardı. Eşlerimizde birçoğu tekstil ve yiyecek atölyelerinde, fabrikalarında çalışması için bu bölge bizim tercihimiz olmuştu. Bir Moorland'da geldiğimizde en sevdiğimiz yer Cemal Dayı'nın kahvesi diye bir yer vardı. O kahvenin içerisinde çorba, berber, her şey mevcuttu. O zaman City'ye gittiğiniz zaman saat 5'te, 6'da her taraf kapalı oluyordu. Biz yine bölgemize geldiğimizde Moorland bölgesine işte Türk kahveleri açık oluyordu geç vakit kadar. Orada da arkadaşlarımızla oturup sohbet ederdik, muhabbet ederdik. Biz ilk geldiğimiz zamanlarda bölgede sosyal, kültürel ağırlıklarımızı yönlendirmek için de 1985 yılında Moorland Türk Derneği olarak bir derneğimiz oluştu. Bu dernek ilk başladığında spor aktiviteleri, daha sonraki dönemlerde de kültür değerlerimizin Avustralya toplumlarıyla, Avustralya kültürleriyle daha iç içe yaşamamız için entegre olma yönüne büyük gayret gösterdik. Ve burada da biz dernek olarak başarılı olduğumuzu düşünüyorum. Moorland bölgesine geldiğim için de kendimi çok şanslı hissediyorum. Çünkü çok kültürlülüğü yaşamış oldum bu bölgede. Gayet güzel bir şekilde benim birçok dostlarım, Avustralyalı dostlarımın olduğu gibi göçmen dostlarım var. İtalyanlardan, Yunan göçmenlerinden, Arap göçmenlerinden birçok dostlarımla beraber burada mutluluk içerisinde hep ilişkilerimizi devam ettik.
When we set up studios in Oven Street, Brunswick, this gallery became a very prominent and important venue for all of the artists in the region. It's the hub, I guess, for all art activity here.
I've been associated with the Brunswick artist community for quite a few decades now, and the Coonahan to me has supported me in a lot of exhibitions over those times. The Coonahan Gallery offers an element of social justice. It's got a great collection. I've donated work to this art collection, and they've bought it in the 80s when I was part of the Red Letter community workshop here. So I feel I'm intricately linked with this gallery.
Since, of course, the gallery was established, it's become a really important cultural scene here with arts and music and cafes and the cafe culture. And it all seems to revolve around this Coonahan Gallery.
I think it's been really supportive of a lot of artists, and hopefully for many years to come.
It is now even easier to reduce waste and refill your water bottle. 6 new water fountains have been installed in Moreland in a partnership between Yarra Valley Water's Choose Tap program and Moreland City Council. We all hate seeing plastic waste in our rivers like Merri Creek. So one simple thing you can do to make a change is to take a reusable water bottle with you and fill it up at one of our many drinking fountains in our parks and open spaces. One of the fountains features a collaboration with artist Robert Michael Young to create a beautiful and eye-catching artwork that also functions as a water refilling station. This artwork is also part of the Smart Art Moreland project, which allows the community to interact with the artwork through augmented reality using their smartphone.
My name's Robert Young and I'm a Gunai and Wiradjuri man. I'm a Melbourne-based artist and I've been creating artworks and that for the past 5 years. And yeah, I find art as very expressive and a great way to connect people with my culture and also start a dialogue and conversation around community and people. We don't realise how important water is, and very much clean, healthy, unfiltered water is something that a lot of the world doesn't have. And for us to have something so freely given is something so powerful that it actually gives you life. And the inspiration for me creating this piece is that culture and your history actually gives you life. And that is something that you need to go back to. You need to go back to that well of wisdom that you have in your past and in your DNA. There's something very powerful in.
Thank you to the councillors and to those live streaming from home. The first notice of motion we have this evening is 8.1 noise walls from residents in Northern Fawkner from Councillor Sue Bolton. Councillor Bolton, do we have a seconder? Councillor Pulford. Councillor Bolton, you may speak.
As I've got a seconder, I'll speak to it. Now, the residents of Northern Fawkner presented a petition at the last council meeting in December. For people who don't come from that area, I'll explain the issue. The issue is that as part of the M80 upgrade, the Vic Roads is building an off-ramp from Marnie's Road on linking up to the M80 and Sydney Road. Now, currently, for residents in Fawkner, northern part of Fawkner and Birchwood Street, there is an incredible level of noise even before this new off-ramp is built, to the extent that people have got used to not having any kind of social gatherings outdoors. This off-ramp will effectively bring a major road to people's doorsteps. It's only a fairly narrow street, and there are already residents with hearing problems, buzzing in the ears, that kind of thing from the noise. But to make things worse, there are no plans to build a noise wall. And councillors who were on council during the campaign for noise walls in Glenroy know that that took an enormous effort to try and win noise walls for Glenroy residents, especially Bindi Street, during the M80 upgrades. And we confront that issue again in Fawkner. Now, so far, the residents have had no luck with Vic Roads, and they're looking for support from council. And I believe we should give it to them. We should try and facilitate the residents building up a big noise and being able to get their point across about why this is so critical. And there is a special need for the council to step up, because there are a lot of elderly residents in the area. They're not social media connected, etc. And they need help from council to facilitate the meetings, the publicity, etc., to try and get noise walls. And we've won it once in Glenroy. We need to win it again.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Pulford?
I support what Councillor Bolton has said, and note that council has supported previous community campaigns about noise walls in the past, and so I think that there's good precedent for us to do it again. And I think what the residents are asking for is reasonable. I wouldn't like it if an off-ramp was suddenly diverting major traffic to the front of my house. And I think, council supporting the campaign for noise walls is one of the least we can do.
Thank you, Councillor Pulford. Are there any speakers against? I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Some clarification.
Can I? Point of clarification. Yes, Councillor Al-Halabi.
Yeah. Now, as stated, the community action group, or whatever called, now did have the right to the state MP as a Tomstown state MP, that's fall under his region, or Pascoval or Broadmeadows.
Councillor Al-Halabi, I'm sorry. I need to be clear what the question or point of clarification is.
Okay, the clarification is this: the action group we say, Councillor Bolton mentioned, they have written to the MP, the local MP, say Tomstown MP, Pascoval MPs, and Broadmeadows MPs.
Yeah, apologies, Councillor Al-Halabi. You can take that out of the meeting and ask Councillor Bolton a little bit more about the group, but it's not a point of clarification about the motion we're voting on.
I'm happy with that.
But
Okay.
they have contacted the state MP, which is Frank Maguire in Broadmeadows.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Bolton. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. We'll now move to 8.2, reinstatement of the Levy monument at Coburg Lake, also moved by Councillor Bolton. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Yildiz.
So this is a motion for council to reconstruct the Levy monument at the Coburg Lakes Reserve. The monument commemorates the suffering of the Levy people, and it traditionally had a list of the cities where there are massacres of Levy people in Turkey. And really, I think this was a hate crime which happened last year where there was a desecration of the monument. It wasn't just casual graffiti, it was someone took a sledgehammer and climbed up and chipped away huge chunks. So the monument can't just be repaired, it really needs to be replaced. And the hope is that it can be replaced in time for the Levy Festival at the end of this year, in November this year. It is causing a lot of hurt to people, the fact that it doesn't exist. And the Levy community is happy to assist council with trying to, seek out the original person who did the work on it, and trying to assist council to make sure that it is a speedy process to get this monument reconstructed.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Yildiz. Nothing further to add. Are there any speakers against? I'll put that to the vote then. All those in favour? Against, I declare that carried. I'll now move to...
Can I just confirm, was that carried unanimously? Can we have that noted if it was?
Yes, that was carried unanimously. The next item is 8.3, support for persecuted mayors and councillors in Turkey, moved by Councillor Bolton. And if she has a seconder, seconded by Councillor Conlon. Councillor Bolton.
So this motion is quite straightforward. It's expressing its solidarity with democratically elected mayors and councillors across Turkey who have been unjustly prevented from taking up their positions or been forcibly removed from office, and to directly communicate our concern as a council about this action. We in a world where the question of democracy is very much has been questioned in recent times, in the US elections, in Burma with the coup against the popularly elected government in Burma, and this has been something which has existed in Turkey, but at the local council level, which is why I'm moving this motion from a sort of solidarity from a local council to local councillors who've been elected and prevented from taking their position. In 2019, 65 mayors were elected and were immediately sacked and replaced with administrators by the Erdogan government. And this is an attack on democracy, regardless of whether you're Kurdish or some other minority or progressive Turkish person. So it's not an anti-Turk motion, it's a motion in support of democracy. Now, council has supported progressive causes in the past. All sorts of organisations, from trade unions to churches to various levels of government, issue statements around humanitarian issues from time to time. And as a council in Moreland and its predecessor councils have taken positions against massacres in East Timor, which has resulted nowadays in the Friends of ALU committee under an independent East Timor, and carried motions in support of West Papua. So we don't move these motions all of the time, but this is important because the council has links with cities in Turkey. I believe one of our former mayors has visited one of the cities where the mayor has been sacked and replaced with an unelected bureaucrat. So I think this is just really a very simple, straightforward motion. A similar motion has been passed by the Inner West Council in Sydney and also the Fremantle Council in Western Australia. And
Councillor Bolton, if you can wind up, thank you.
There.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Conlon?
Yeah, just echo a lot of what Sue said. Yeah, I think it's important for us to, as a council, to show solidarity with other democratically elected governments across the world, and especially where there's examples of taking people out of office illegally. I think we need to take a stand and make sure that we're showing, especially the communities that live within Moreland, that we stand in solidarity with their elected governments, even though it's overseas. I think that's important.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Are there any councillors against? Oh, Councillor Yildiz, did you have a question?
I'd like to speak against, please.
Okay, Councillor Yildiz.
Okay, I'm going to try and keep this to 3 minutes if I can. Councillors, there's 537 councils in Australia, and which council continues to delve into issues that don't really concern the average ratepayer of Moreland. I'm sure there's a lot of them watching this going, why are we even bringing this to a council meeting? We've got 189 different nationalities living in the city of Moreland, and our motto is one community proudly diverse. We are one of the most accepting and most multicultural cities in this country. We're also very successful when it comes to multiculturalism, and we value cultural diversity and support inclusiveness, and we also respect all residents, whatever their background. I'm a proud Australian Turk, and my parents migrated from Çorum in Turkey in the 1960s for a better life. We are known to be the showpiece of multiculturalism, and we are champions of promoting social harmony. This motion undermines multiculturalism, I believe, which this community has for decades worked very hard and has celebrated. Those who came from faraway countries came here for a better life, not to relive the past or debate present issues of their homeland. In fact, a lot of them don't even want to talk about it. This motion has gained a lot of attention, not just here in Victoria, but also right around Australia and even Turkey. People are watching. There is a sizable community, Turkish community in Moreland, and many have already asked me, what are the motivations for debating this issue without appropriate in-depth understanding and knowledge of the dynamics and the politics in Turkey? We are clearly acting outside our jurisdiction, councillors. We cannot take matters of international politics into our own hands when we've got local issues to deal with. Many ratepayers have already expressed their disappointment and disgust, and they've urged me to focus on those issues. Notwithstanding this, Councillor Bolton, some members of the Turkish community share some of your concerns, and no doubt Turkey's record in democracy and human rights have been deteriorating in the eyes of many global institutions. I want to make this clear. I don't support dictatorships, and this is not about the Turks, and this is not about the Kurds. As far as I'm concerned, what I want to ask is this. Councillor Bolton, you really don't have the experience to understand what really goes on in Turkish politics. As much as democracy and human rights are an important issue, let's focus on those local issues. For example, we've got a pandemic that is crippling this city. Only a few hours ago, there is talk about the fact that our waters may have in fact be contaminated with COVID. We are in unprecedented...
Councillor Yildiz, if you can wind up, thank you.
Rounding up. Times and our community is suffering because of a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, and what are we discussing? This motion doesn't promote cohesion. It does not promote harmony. It divides, it doesn't conquer. And if passed, it will alienate and harm the community and cause tension between a lot of the communities. It'll destroy relationships. Just finishing up. This motion, if passed, will antagonise the Turkish community and cause a lasting negative impact. We must focus on the issues that represent the needs of our community. How does this motion really do that? Why are we spending ratepayer money debating an issue irrelevant to current problems that require our attention? Last sentence. I will not be supporting this motion as it is not relevant, it's not necessary. It demonstrates irresponsibility and is insignificant to this community's current challenges and needs.
Thank you, Councillor Yildiz. Can I just also ask that councillors please go through the mayor rather than addressing councillors directly? Are there any other speakers in favour of Councillor Bolton's motion? Councillor Tapanos.
Yeah, thank you. And I do agree with Councillor Yildiz. Sometimes I wonder why we discuss so many international matters. But the fact is we probably have a tradition of doing so in Moreland, particularly when it comes to matters of human rights and values. And democratic local government goes to those values. And I know that we do a lot of work in Timor-Leste, and part of that work is about decentralisation and creating democratic local governments. So I think it is important, but I know it's upset some members of the community, and I know that other members from Turkey are advocating for this motion, so it really is a difficult decision. Of course, Turkey is a very strategic ally and a friend of Australia. And of course, Moreland, we have a friendship city with a Turkish city in Çorum, and we have many people that have migrated from Turkey to Moreland, particularly religious and ethnic minorities such as the Levy and Kurdish communities, which have spoken to us. And I know that this is important for them. But I do believe when it comes to core principles and values, our voice should be heard, particularly when it comes to telling our friends when we think that they are doing the wrong thing. So I think Turkey is a little bit moving away from these democratic values that we've cherished and Turkish people have cherished over many years. Not only are there mayors and councillors being imprisoned, but I think at the moment anyone who opposes the government is being imprisoned. Most of those are journalists, and I am disappointed to find out that it's either Turkey or China. They sort of swap as the country that imprisons most journalists every year. But you see imprisonments of all sorts of people for political reasons, and it was only as recently as December when the Human Rights Court ordered that political prisoners be released. This is a court decision, and one of those people is Selahattin Demirtas, who ran for president of the Republic of Turkey from jail and got about 8%. And then, soon after, his political party is abandoned and people are put in jail and everyone's arrested. I mean, they're not the values that we would see in a democratic country. So, I do believe Councillor Bolton mentioned that mayors had visited Turkey, and I've visited Turkey many times. And I did have an opportunity to visit one of my favourite cities in Turkey, which is the old city of Diyarbakir, and speak to the mayor of the old town there. And I asked him, why do you have so many prison sentences against you and what are the major issues? And I spoke to him about our Moreland community and how much we value our diversity and our languages and how we provide services in our languages. And he said to me, well, most of the charges against me are about providing services in different languages. He produced the flyer in Kurdish and was taken to court. He produced the flyer in Assyrian and other local languages and were taken to court. So you really wonder about some of these. But for me, I think it is about values, and I think it's important that we make our voice heard. But having also said this, I do also agree that sometimes we talk way too much about these issues, and they are really the realm of the federal government. So a warning to everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Tapanos. Do we have any other speakers in against the motion? No. Councillor Bolton, did you wish to reply?
Yes, I would like to reply to a couple of things.
Sorry, Councillor Bolton, you just muted yourself.
I would like to respond to a couple of points. Firstly, I would like to respond to the assertion that I ignore local issues and only take up international issues. As people can see on the agenda tonight, I just moved a motion around noise walls in Faulkner, and I'll later on be moving a motion around a playground. So I'm sort of consistent across the board for people's rights at a local level as well as at a broader level. Also, I don't think motions like this undermine multiculturalism, because I think sometimes multiculturalism in Australia can be, I do support multiculturalism, but sometimes it can be turned into just a celebration of people's cooking and costumes and not real rights attached to that multiculturalism. And I'm for multiculturalism that accords people of all sorts of different cultures real rights. And I think that also means we do have to support humanitarian values in support of refugees and asylum seekers, and we've got many in our community, and the Kurdish community and Levy community are refugee communities in Moreland and other municipalities. But also the overturning of democratic votes in one country encourages the overturning of democratic votes in other countries. And which is why I think it is important that we offer our solidarity to our fellow mayors and councillors in Turkey who have not been allowed to take up their place. I mean, this would be equivalent to everyone in Moreland who was elected and several other councils as well in Melbourne at the last council elections being sacked by the state government and replaced with administrators. I mean, that would be what it's like. 95 mayors have not been allowed to take up their places, plus countless more councillors. So
thank you, Councillor Bolton. Apologies, it's over
a real
2 minutes.
worrying thing. Okay, I'll end there.
Thank you. All right, we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried.
Could we please get a division? Yes, please.
Okay, all those in favour? Councillor Bolton, Councillor Panopoulos, Councillor El Halabi, Councillor Conlon, Councillor Tapanos, Councillor Carly Hannon, Councillor Riley and Councillor Pulford. And all those against? Councillor Gillies?
I'd like
and
it to be
abstaining?
noted. Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Councillor Davidson and Councillor Pavlidis to abstain. Thank you. We'll now move to 8.4, strengthening Council's reconciliation work with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, moved by Councillor James Conlon. And does Councillor Conlon have a seconder? Councillor Bolton.
Oh yeah, so do you want me to, I'll quickly outline what it is. Yeah, so this motion is, there's 3 sections to this motion. The first one is about Council amending our civic flag policy to allow for us to lower the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags at half-mast on 26th of January each year. The other part, it's number 2, is to host a Survival Day / morning ceremony on the 26th of January each year based on what we did this year due to the success of that. And then to also keep the ball rolling on the Ballot Maroop Indigenous Community Centre, which Council has started the process of doing. So yeah, to receive a report back on that process in April this year.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Councillor Bolton?
I'll reserve my right to speak a little bit later.
Thank you. Are there any speakers against this motion?
I just have a questions in regards to the Australian federal government's protocols about flying flags, because they govern how we fly flags, particularly the Australian Indigenous and Victorian flags. So I just want to make sure that we're not in contradiction of protocols that we're required to abide by.
Thank you, Councillor Tapanos. Councillor Conlon, are you able to answer that?
I think so. My understanding is that we tried to lower the flag this year on the 26th of January, but were unable to, not because of federal protocols, but because of our own Moreland Council policy in the civic flags policy. So
correct, and other councils have been doing it. So
that's right.
Yeah. Great. So are there any speakers against? Councillor Davidson.
Yes, I'd like to speak against.
I haven't sort of outlined my point yet, Mayor.
Oh, apologies, Councillor Conlon.
Yeah, so the reason for this is to basically build on the good work the council have been doing on reconciliation over many years with the establishment of the reconciliation working group, which myself and Councillor Bolton are on. And I guess this is also recognising the huge growing public momentum that's growing across Australia and really across the world, but in Australia for First Nations justice, and then obviously with the Black Lives Matter movement across the world, I think public sentiment has really shifted, and I think the inappropriateness of things like flying the flag, flying the flag on, not being able to lower the flag on January 26th is problematic. So basically I think the community sentiment has really come a long way in the last couple of years on this, and I think Moreland Council being taking more of a leadership role on First Nations justice, this is a really great opportunity to continue to do the good work that we're doing and the leadership we do in this space. And I think things like the Ballot Maroop Indigenous Community Centre could be a really great centre that could provide lots of good services and establish really good connections between between the community, between non-Indigenous and Indigenous people. And I think the Survival Day ceremony that we held this year was really it was really moving, and it was good to be part of it, as was the Mayor and Councillor Bolton and the rest of the councillors who attended that. I think that was really well received, including by the CEO and the rest of council staff. So I think, council should be commended for, taking that on. It was a somber day, but I think it's a necessary action that we need to take. And it'd be really great if we could sort of cement that in policy so that we can make sure we really give good justice to creating a really good event in future. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Councillor Davidson.
Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Conlon, for your motion. But the point about flying the flag at half-mast on Australia Day is something that I can't accept. The Australian flag is still our national flag, and Australia Day is still our national day. We can celebrate that all that we've achieved while acknowledging our past and feeling the gravity of that as well. Australia encompasses all of our history, and it's not a day of division. And Moreland has taken a very strong stance in working towards reconciliation with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And I'm very proud of all that work. And I think James mentioned quite a bit of the work that we've done. And in saying that, I'm also extremely proud of our national flag, the flag that people have fought and died under, the flag that the country has offered me so many opportunities. And I'm forever grateful.
Can I make a point of order? Sorry, apologies, Councillor. But, through the Mayor, could I just make a point of order?
Yes, Councillor Riley.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a point of order that this is regarding the half-mast flag flying is regarding the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags. So just to be really clear about that, we're not talking about the national flag. So, Councillor, I think you may have made that reference. I just wanted to clarify that, please.
Yeah, I'm happy to clarify for
no, this is just just to clarify what's in the motion for Councillor Davidson. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Davidson.
Right, okay. I was under the impression that it was for the Australian flag. I understand that if it is for only the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flag, then that's something that I can consider. And I'm very pleased that this council is not putting forward a motion to fly the Australian flag at half-mast, because that's something I would never accept. In saying that, I would just like to continue on that point now that we've raised it. I think that we still hold Australian citizenship ceremonies on Australia Day, on the 26th of January. And I think that those citizens that are fortunate enough to become newly citizens, they deserve to look at this country with pride and as well consider the past. And
may I make another point of order, Madam Mayor?
Really, do you have to keep interrupting?
I'm sorry.
Yes, Councillor Riley.
Yeah, look, I don't believe the Councillor Davidson speaking to the actual motion. She's talking about other issues that are not pertaining to this motion, and I just
I totally disagree.
To rule on, I'd ask you, Mayor, to rule on that, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. I'll just let Councillor Davidson finish her point, and then we might move to the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so sorry to the gallery and the people watching that have been interrupted on this. I think it's an important point that addresses this motion and goes to where this motion is leading to. And I hope that those citizens on Australia Day can look at the flags, all of them, and feel proud of the country that is offering them so many opportunities. And in saying that, I will consider my point regarding the Aboriginal flag being flown at half-mast, but I still say that I'm extremely proud to be an Australian, and I do support Australia Day.
Thank you, Councillor Davidson. Councillor Bolton to speak in favour of the motion.
Can I propose a procedural to defer this item?
Okay, there's a procedural. We have been clarified you can debate the procedure, but you'll need a seconder first. Is there a seconder to defer? Councillor Pavlidis. Okay, Councillor Tapanos, you may speak.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's a lot in here that we do anyway, and we should continue to do, but it talks about Australia Day, which is 11 months away. So I don't see the urgency for this. I would really like to get some information about federal government protocols, because although other councils might be doing this, I'm not sure whether they are doing the right thing. And the Indigenous flag is an official flag. It has status in this country, and I just want to make sure that we are doing the right thing. And if that is the case, I would be happy to support this motion at a future date. But at the moment, I just have a real uncertainty about what those federal protocols say about flying Australian flags, not just the Australian flag, but Australian flags. I think includes the Indigenous flag. So for that reason, there's no great urgency. Let's bring this back in a few months' time when we get that clarification.
Point of clarification, Mayor. I'm happy for the individual items to be debated, to be voted on separately, if that's acceptable to Councillor Tapanos, since he only had an issue with the federal flag policy protocol.
Yeah. I'm happy to move a deferral of point 1.
Okay, so we have a motion to move a deferral of point 1. You need to specify which month the deferral will come back for.
I don't know, 2 months, 3 months.
Okay, so to return in April. Councillor Pavlidis, did you wish to speak as the seconder?
Just very briefly. Look, in principle, I'm supportive of what Councillor Conlon is putting forward. However, I cannot find anything in the notice of motion, the accompanying material, which indicates whether council has or hasn't consulted with our local Indigenous community. I think, in my opinion, which is why I'm supporting Councillor Tapanos, I think it's more appropriate that we consult with the Indigenous community first to find out what exactly they believe the appropriate way forward is. But on the second point to that is that not just the Indigenous community, it's all our community, because as Councillor Davison did say, there's quite a lot of our community that still believe in Australia Day and celebrate it. So open it up to the community as a whole rather than just a particular group. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Pavlidis. Are there any speakers against Councillor Tapanos's deferral?
So, sorry, to clarify that, Councillor Pavlidis, are you suggesting an amendment to add in consultation?
I suppose in a nutshell I am, but when it comes back as a deferral, I think my suggestion would also be that it includes consultation with the community as a whole.
Yes, I agree.
So I'm happy with that. So if the amendment is only to add consultation with local community Indigenous groups, I'm happy to just accept that rather than defer it.
No, if that's accepted, we could incorporate that and defer the whole lot of point 1. What I would like to do is get some advice from the federal government about official flags of Australia and whether this is allowed.
I want to speak against the deferral.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Pulver to speak against the deferral. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I'm listening to the debate here. I don't know, Mayor. I'm not sure of Councillor Tapanos's concern about point 1 because it's only asking for a report next month about it, and I'm sure that report could cover the national flag policy. We could even amend that to say that the report specifically jumps in on that and also includes local consultation of First Nations groups. In terms of other parts of the okay, it's deferral just on that point, right? So I'm happy to stop there.
I understand. Thank you, Councillor Pulford. Are there any, Councillor Pavlidis, apologies, you've already spoken in favour. Are there any other speakers in favour of Councillor Tapanos's deferral? If not, I'll put that to a vote. So all those in favour of Councillor Tapanos's deferral? All those against? I declare that lost.
Can we have a division on that? I'm sorry, but it's quite an important issue that we need to record. Yeah.
Thank you. All those in favour of Councillor Tapanos's...
I'm not sure if you can have a division on a deferral. I mean,
okay,
you have a divisions on motions. Well, I mean, you could just call the division later when we go to vote for the motion if you wish.
Okay.
That'd be better.
All right, I'll move. So we'll now go back to the substantive motions. So councillors that have already spoken on the substantive cannot speak again. And I believe we are up to a speaker in favour.
Sorry, Mayor, can we just clarify the amendments on point 1 now? Because I think some of them were incorporated. Can we just clarify that, please?
No,
they weren't.
Nothing was accepted by the mover and nothing won in the deferral. So there's no amendments. Councillor Bolton, are you speaking in favour?
I'm speaking in favour. I seconded it. And I would like to suggest that Councillor Pulford types in his amendment, because I'm pretty sure that will be accepted by Councillor Conlon and myself, which is simply, my understanding was to slightly reword point 1 to for the report to come back to include information on national flag policy and consultation with the Wurundjeri and the Reconciliation Committee. I think that's right, but if you could type that in. I'd like to speak to it because I think the motivation behind this is that Australia was founded on a genocide, and this was a full, real genocide where people were sent out to clear the country, and that meant not clearing trees, but clearing people, eliminating people. And that is a pretty big thing. And anyone who marches on Anzac Day to commemorate fallen soldiers in World War I ought to absolutely understand how Aboriginal people feel on this day, being asked to do, you know, we're not debating the issue about citizenship ceremonies and civic ceremonies on this day, but you know, asking Aboriginal people to celebrate the beginning of that genocide is, you know, absolutely unconscionable. And we wouldn't ask families of World War I veterans to do that. So if we're not asking World War I veterans to do that, of the families of, then we should not be asking Aboriginal people to do that. And this is partly starting to build on community sentiment, which is changing in Australia now, as more people start to understand the scale of the genocide, so that the Wurundjeri clans, for example, only 2 of the Wurundjeri clans survived out of the 10 clans. And it's, you know, the storylines are broken because of, you know, people's removal. Like, there's so many injustices which have a bearing on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander society today. And it is remarkable that this community is still a living culture, the oldest living culture in the world. They were carrying out amazing things way before the Neolithic age and so forth.
Councillor Bolton,
so
if you can just
I, you know, certainly want to support this. Glen Ira Council has already decided to fly the Aboriginal flag at half-mast on this day as a mark of respect, and we'd like to build on the healing ceremony, which we had for the first time this year, and then also get the report back on the ballot Meroop. And I just noticed there is a misspelling of ballot Meroop. It should be MOOP.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Are there any other speakers against the motion? There being none, Councillor Conlon, would you like to have a right of reply?
Can I, sorry to interrupt, can I clarify point 1? So I think Adam's proposed the wording, and I can't really see it on the screen, but this report should reference any national flag policy and be informed through consultation with Council's Reconciliation Working Group. And so could I just say this report should reference any national flag policy, and the point is to whether or not the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags can be flown at half-mast, because I think that's the crux of this, that it's the question is whether or not those flags can be flown at half-mast.
Well, there is no, like, councils have already done it, so there's obviously no federal policy that preventing them, but we can refer to it, but it's already happening.
All right, so can I just clarify,
Well,
Councillor Davidson, you're proposing...
I think we should do our own due diligence.
Yeah,
I think
I'm happy
we should
with...
do our own due diligence and put that in. It's
Okay,
not
thank you,
just
Councillor
accepting what other
Davidson.
councils
So,
have done.
Councillor Conlon, is that acceptable to you?
No, I'm happy with Adam's original wording. Thanks.
Okay, so Councillor Davidson, did you want to get a seconder for that amendment?
Councillor Davidson, my
yes, please.
understanding is the point of that is purely to address that question you're talking about.
All right, to not get into a discussion, if there's a
Okay,
seconder
then.
for, sorry, if there's a seconder for Councillor Davidson's amendment. If not, that amendment lapses. Councillor Conlon, if you would like to have a right of reply to the whole debate now.
Not really. I think everything's been said, and I've said what I think, and I think this is the first one is a basic mark of respect for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people on this traumatic day for them. It's not talking about the Australian flag. I think the debates that have gone down a bit of a rabbit warren. It's really about showing respect for Aboriginal and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people on that day, and not asking them to have their flag at full mast, and it's lowering it as a mark of respect. And then the other two things are just about continuing the good work that council's doing and building on that. So, but
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. So I'll now put that to the vote. So we're voting on Councillor Conlon's motion. All those in favour?
Are we voting on them separate?
Oh, yes. Okay, we can do that. Apologies, Councillor Tapanos. So, point 1, all those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried.
We get a division on each of the 3 motions, please.
Okay.
Thanks.
Point 1, all those in favour? Councillor Kylie Hannon, Councillor Bolton, Councillor Panopoulos, Councillor Conlon, Councillor Riley and Councillor Pulford. All those against? Councillor Davidson, Councillor Pavlidis, Councillor El Halabi, Councillor Yildiz and Councillor Tapanos, are you abstaining? Correct. Okay, item 2, all those in favour? Councillor, I'm just going to say it as a division, you've already asked for that, yep. Councillor Davidson, Councillor Kylie Hannon, Councillor Bolton, Councillor Panopoulos, Councillor Pavlidis. Oh, it's unanimous.
It's unanimous, yeah.
Yep, thank you. And point 3, all those in favour? And that's also unanimous. Great, thank you, councillors. We'll now move to 8.5, age-appropriate play equipment for Garong Park by Councillor Sue Bolton.
This motion is...
And I'll just check, sorry, Councillor, if you have a seconder, Councillor Pulford.
So this motion is for council to install age-appropriate or play equipment for a broad range of ages, including school-age children. Actually, I suddenly realised I did slightly amend it, but that didn't go through. So basically, council did fantastic public consultation for what should go in this park, and council took primary school children for North Brunswick Primary around to a number of playgrounds to give kids an idea of what sort of play equipment was available, and got kids to participate in a civic experiment to nominate what they'd like to see in the park. In council's consultation documents, council said that the play equipment would be for a broad range of ages. Now, what council has done, though, is build a playground that is suitable for toddlers, but not for school-age children. Now, many families have children of a multiple range of ages, from older children to younger children. And I understand that not all playgrounds will have the full range of equipment. I totally understand that. But I think in this area, we built up an expectation that there would be play equipment which would be suitable for school-age children, because that's who we consulted with, as well as parents in the local community, and toddlers. But we haven't delivered that. So we raised expectations and we haven't delivered those expectations. Now, I believe that council officers have some ideas for play equipment which would suit an older older, school children, the older age group, which also wouldn't impinge on the amenity of nearby residents. So I think that's what we should do. And I have heard comments from parents for some time that council builds too many toddler playgrounds and not enough playgrounds with equipment that would be interesting for older kids. So it means that they're not as well utilised as they might be otherwise. So in general, the play strategy comes up for discussion in council later this year. So I think I'll certainly be pushing for, a range of play equipment in different parks. But I definitely think we need to honour our promise to this community and install play equipment for school-age children as well as toddlers.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Pulford.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Bolton, for this motion. I think that the Morelands Park Close to Home project is so exciting. I think it's incredible that we're getting new land and creating new parks. And I know that lots of local residents are incredibly supportive of that too. I think the opening of this new park is a really exciting event. I understand that some residents have felt disappointed because through the consultation, they believed that they were getting something, and then in their eyes, it hasn't been delivered. I think council officers did a really good job on their consultation on this project, and but I think that in reporting back to residents who were consulted, and particularly the primary school students, council might have been able to take a few more actions to make sure that that news was passed on to residents, and particularly to the primary school students, that what they were consulted on didn't end up in the final design. And why? Because other residents were concerned about the private, how it would affect their privacy and their, I guess, their experience living in their homes. So I think council can still improve on that part of its consultation. And I understand that residents are even more frustrated because of the accident where council installed the tower that they were consulted on and then took it away. So we kind of added insult to injury, seeing what they wanted there and then removed. I think this motion is good because it's an opportunity to look at how we can, even if we can't put that tower back, how we can provide adequate equipment and playing opportunities for older kids or older young people. So thank you, Councillor Bolton, for putting this forward. Happy to support it. And I think this is an opportunity to make sure that all residents have something to look forward to in that new park.
Thank you, Councillor Pulford. And just to note that Councillor Bolton would like to add the words including school-age children. Councillor Bolton, whereabouts would you like to add that?
I think just at the end.
Okay, thank you. Assuming that's acceptable to Councillor Pulford. So are there any speakers against this item? No, then I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. And I'll declare that carried unanimously. We'll now move to item 9, notices of rescission. Councillors, we have no notices of rescission, so I'll move on to foreshadowed items. Councillors, do you have any items that you wish to foreshadow? No? I'll move over to urgent business. We do not have any urgent business tonight, so we will now close the meeting to the public at 9:40. We have 3 confidential items to consider. In each of the next 3 items, council will be considering matters that are commercial in nature, and all the parties involved would be significantly disadvantaged should details be released to the public realm. Do I have a mover for this closing of the meeting to the public? Councillor Riley, Councillor Pavlidis to second. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. And thank you to all those that watched the live stream this evening.